Are churches telling men to lead, or they're mostly telling men to serve women?
Oh, to serve women.
I initially grew up in the Mormon LDS church. I have so many horror stories in that one. What I will say is I have converted back to Christianity, but I have so many problems with all the modern churches. So when Jesus was alive, one of the things that he did was he challenged the Pharisees, which were the religious authority figures at the time. He challenged them and he said, no, you got this wrong. I believe that damn near every single pastor in the United States right now is a Pharisees. And that's the reason why whenever you're trying to talk to a pastor, they give you these dumbass answers, is because they're not actually living from the Bible, in my opinion.
I don't think you're living from the Bible unless you can tell your wife to shut up. I don't think.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I mean, even the Bible talks about how, the man is the head of the household. The man is supposed to have the authority. Why? Because the man is responsible. So whenever a man fucks up, their generations get cursed. So they have to have the authority. There's no exception. Because whenever anything happens in your family, as a man, you get blamed. No matter what, you get blamed. You get divorced, you get blamed. Somebody dies, you get blamed. That's how it's always been. So because of that, you have to have the authority.
Yeah.
There's no other way of interpreting that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mike, oh, sorry, keep going.
So one thing that I would want to say, I mean, so here's one. This is a very early biblical story, and everybody knows the story. And I'm going to talk about it because it actually articulates what we are experiencing today. So everybody knows the story of Moses, I think. Moses, he took, he went to Egypt, talked to the Pharaoh, had all the plagues happen, took Israelites out of Egypt, brought them into the wilderness, ultimately to the land of Canaan, which became the land of Israel. What I think a lot of people tend to forget is that the entire time Moses was doing that, he had a brother, I believe his name is Aaron. And Aaron saw all the things that Moses was doing, from making the Nile River turn to blood, having the frogs come, the locusts come, the death of the firstborn child. He saw all of it, right? And so as they're going into the wilderness, before they get to the land of Canaan, he becomes the high priest while Moses is going to Mount Sinai to go and talk to the God for the Ten Commandments.
You got like another 30 seconds, bro. You got to sum it up real fast.
Sorry. So my point is that this guy who saw all this was a guy who gathered all the gold in Israel, smelted it into the golden calf, and created the first instance of idolatry.
Oh, okay.
So my point is that even in the quote unquote real church, your main pastor can be the one who's leading you to the path to hell. That's my point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Mike, welcome to the show. What you got for me? There will be cases of Mormon women with STDs and armpits.
Good evening, Pearl. Good evening, Doug. Good to talk to you. So what I think the biggest problem with the church right now is gynocentrism, generally speaking, is that you have everything is formed around what the opinions of women are. And that's what's getting people wrapped around the axle in so many ways, because pastors are not going to actively say, hey, wives, you should submit to your husband, even though it's plainly in the Bible. It's plainly written out there. And what's really interesting is this morning I had a video go out about how feminism captured the church. And I've got a relatively small channel. Before this video came out, I only had 1,900 subs, and now I'm at 2,200 almost, just from a video today about how feminism just ate up the church and how it came to be. And so there's a lot of guys that are looking for guidance here. And they're like, where are all the based Christians out here that are going to say what's actually in the Bible? The problem is, if you do go ahead and say that, most guys are not in a position where they can nut up and actually say the things that they know are true, because they're not in a position to tell people no and to back off.
And a lot of times they want to be right too. So it's admitting their church is flawed. It's like they can't, I don't know. I think a lot of times they have too much of an ego investment in their church being right, so they don't want to admit it's flawed. Do you agree with that or no?
Oh, absolutely. I think people have such a huge ego about it because they don't want to give an impression to other people. And this is, I think, something that was big about a lot of the interviews that you were doing about should Christian wives submit, is that nobody wanted to look bad on camera.
Yeah.
They were so worried about what other people thought of them, not necessarily what was true. And the big deal with that is when we go ahead and have so many guys that are unwilling because they don't have a foundation to stand on, like if their wives divorced them, they'd be ruined, right? There aren't a whole lot of guys that are just G's that'll just say the thing. And then if their wife gets out of line, they're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to figure it out at this point. You're gonna go ahead and move out, or we're gonna get you an apartment, but you're not staying here with that attitude. There are not many guys that are willing to stand up and say that when stuff happens.
Mike, I have a question for you. So
yes, sir.
You see that later Gen Z and like Gen Alpha are a bunch of the young men are going towards the church. How is that going to affect the church now? Because you're seeing an influx of young men that are like, okay, liberalism and feminism isn't working. They're going towards the church, but are they going to be met with this gynocentric church? And what are they going to do about it? What do you think is going to happen?
It really depends on a lot of things. So I'll give you an overarching view, and then I'll give you some specifics. So there is generally more and less liberal churches, and there are generally more patriarchal and more egalitarian churches. The big trouble is when you go in on a Sunday morning, you are not going to know within the first month where they're at for the most part. And during my video, I separated out 3 views of the family, whether it's egalitarian, whether it should be complementarian, where people have different roles, but it's basically egalitarianism on a speed limit, or patriarchy. And those are the 3 basic views of the family in the church. And you're not going to be able to tell which of those 3 that church ascribes to on a few Sundays. It's going to go ahead and take a serious investigative effort on the part of an individual to go ahead and really dig in on what their belief set is, because it's
speed run us through how a young man can tell if a church is feminist or not. Speed run.
Awesome. All right. So step 1, if you go in there and everybody is talking about the plight of women in the sermon, that's the first indicator, is if everybody is right. If we're talking about it from the perspective of women first, that is your dead giveaway. Now, a lot of people that are more in like middle ground kind of thing, they're going to hide that a little bit. So then you're going to have to go on like Wednesday night Bible study and see what everybody around you is saying about a certain topic. I've got actually a really good story on this, of a time where there was an egalitarian that I had to go ahead and go toe to toe with about it. So I'm a member of church leadership in my church. I'm a deacon. So it's you've got elders, deacons, and then you got the laymen. So I go ahead and help out with administrative efforts and things of that nature.
Ooh.
And the guy that was above me at the time, he was the head. Yeah, watch the pastor's wife is another thing.
That's
Henpecking. Henpecking is great. But there's this guy, and so in Wednesday night Bible study, he was like, "Oh yeah, let's talk about mutual submission." And I'm like, no. Mutual submission's not in the Bible. And so I asked him, I'm like, hey, where do you find that? And so he just Googled it, because he didn't actually know. It's just something that he felt. He felt it was true, and he was looking up a Bible verse to support it, right? Whereas I already know what the scriptures say on the matter. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to call him aside, because I don't want to call him out in front of everybody. I'm going to go ahead and be respectful to him, because he's 20 years my senior, but I'm going to talk to him respectfully. So I pull him aside and I'm like, hey, the thing that you said, that's not what it says there. It is the last sentence, or is the last verse of a sentence that's 4 verses long. If you look at it in the context, that's not what it's saying at all. And so he wasn't having it. And I had to go ahead and call a meeting with the elders. And I'm like, look, here it is, and laid out the whole case. So we basically had a mini debate. And so I came with the Bible, and he came with feelings, because he's kind of like more of an effeminate kind of guy. Yeah. And so that was the deal. And so at the end of it, I'm like, look, man, you're not going to go ahead and call me sinner for running my family the way the Bible tells me I need to be running my family. And he got real upset about that, and then he had some issues with other things in his life. But like,
where would you rate female-led Bible studies?
Oh no, terrible. Okay. F tier.
The other, you should make that video next. It says if most of the women are fat, that means they don't obey their husband.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And they're probably not putting out either.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
No, that's something that go.
When Christian women say they're loyal to their husbands, it's like, yeah, what choice do you have if you're fat? Like, what
Sure.
do you do? Leave? Like,
Yeah, what options do you actually have? And so that's what's really interesting is you find that when guys are actually hot and they know that they have status and things like that, most of the time in the church, they're not having problems in their marriages for the most part because the guys can actually nut up and say, okay, you can leave.
yeah.
Whereas the women, most of them have the guys wrapped around their pinky and they don't have leverage to say no.
Joe, I'm going to ask you, so how do you think we got here? Because the Bible and Christianity is straight up patriarchy.
It is, absolutely.
How did we get here?
Like it's the infiltration of feminism in the church. You've said this in other videos. The natural order, the biblical order is supposed to be God, man, women, children. A lot of churches have just fallen from that. And on top of all the feminism, you've got just the simpery. Like, men will just believe women at any cost. Like if there's a divorce, they'll take the women's side. You see that happening a lot in churches. And I do want to thank you for just taking the initiative to go to these churches and ask the hard questions, because honestly, there's a lot of cowardice, if I'm being honest, in the church. We've fallen so far, honestly.
It's from patriarchy to women withholding like sex from their husband.
Insane.
We gone this far. Joshua, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts on the topic? Why are modern Christians so insufferable? I love your work on X, by the way.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yes. So I said before that I think it's an incentive and structure problem. When you have the majority of a congregation being women, and when that's anywhere from 60 to 70%, and your salary is based on payment from your congregation, you have to tell your customers what they want to hear. The customer is always right. And that's not necessarily demonizing, pun intended, any pastor, preacher, priest. It's just simply the way things are. Now, I want to point out there is one type of congregational structure that I've seen work, and that is the home church. And the reason why is the fathers are the pastors, right? They'll take turns. It's sort of a flat hierarchy where they move from, family's home to family's home one Sunday to the next. And there's like tithes and offerings. That's not really a thing. So when you have,
because there's no overhead.
Yes, it's like
that's where it goes. Like once you have overhead costs. Yeah.
Yes, and it's like the fathers can kind of sense what the kids need and the wives and so on and so forth, and it really works, but it doesn't have a marketing and sales component, so they tend to stay small and unnoticed throughout the United States. But I think that's the one. And because the majority of the customers, I mean congregation, because they have to be appealed to any new customers, let's say men who join the church, if they're a minority block, let's say, as a customer base, then they have to be persuaded to purchase the same product, so to speak, that the recurring revenue majority are paying. So that I think is really the issue, is a broken incentive structure, or at least one that results in seeker sensitivity, it's called, rather than uncomfortable truth seeking. And in a home church where it's like 3 to 4 to 5 families, you have the power of social shame keeping everyone on their best behavior, which you do not have in larger congregations like megachurches.
Can you explain that a little more? The social? Oh, because everyone knows each other's sins, I guess. Because what are you going to hide from your siblings?
Yes, that's right. And because it's still so small, you can be honest with each other when you're having a struggle. When it's like a pecking order of 30, 40, 3 to 400, 3 to 4,000, you want to keep up with appearances. But when it's like 3 to 4 wives and maybe they have a couple of teenage daughters that are 16, 17, 18, there's a sense of a tribe. And the same with the men, where they can be honest with one another, and the men and the sons do activities together. And in many of these home churches, you do see that father spending time with the sons and women spending time with their daughters. But again, because they're so small, they don't tend to attract attention. They just go about their way doing things, and it really works.
Why do you think the churches have such a visceral reaction to my obey sign?
I think it's because you are threatening cash flow. So it's an existential crisis you represent, because, as I've said before, in the United States, aspects of biblical teaching around marriage are illegal. So around obedience, that's illegal. And there's a delicate balance between church and state. And I've pointed out that civil and religious marriage are different institutions now.
Mhm.
And civil has the right of, well, everything when the two come into contact. But there's still a, let's say, well, I think keeping up with appearances, where we still have to sort of pretend that sacramental religious sacred marriage, still exists separate from the civil institution, which it does not. So there's a lot of complexity around it, but you're sort of showing up and upsetting the apple cart, and you're threatening the majority of a congregation who make up the majority of the paycheck. And even when it's balanced 50-50 men and women and it's families, we still know that the wife makes the majority of the purchasing decisions, which results in the priest, pastor, preacher having to tell the female customers what they want to hear. They're buying a very specific product, and that product is make my husband be better, let's say, in many cases.
Yeah, I think it was over when they gave women credit cards. I used to say it was the vote, but I actually think the credit cards were far more detrimental. I'm considering becoming Muslims. I never believed in unconditional love. Mercy can be unconditional, but love should not. What do you want me to say about you becoming Muslim? Like, I obviously am not Muslim, but okay, good luck with that.
With the scandal in the United Kingdom today, the inquiry report, that this is now is not the time, guys.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I'm any religion that has women in it, I think is going to do the same thing. So I don't think it's going to be better.
Going back to the question, how did we get here? There's a lot of cope in terms of when it comes to women pastors, right? Like, because there's a passage in 1 Timothy that talks about how in the church, women are not to have authority over a man. And the argument they use is, well, that's because the women were out of control in that church and in that time frame. And I'm thinking about that like, Ninja, you mean to tell me that the women are under control right now with the whole family court system, the feminism that's being pushed, everything? And so, like, there's always the mental gymnastics. And finally, in closing, I'll just say, I don't like to sell hope where there's not hope, but I do think that we can turn this around when you think about, like, how quickly culture can adjust. Because if you look at, let's say, for example, the George Floyd era, and you look at how social media was at that time, it was a bunch of woke nonsense. And if you said anything, made any kind of joke that could somehow be construed as racist or whatever, you get just immediately condemned or banned. Now, if you look at X, it's like the wild, wild west. And so I use that as an example. Culture can turn around very quickly. And I think if we get more voices, like the Pearls of the world, that will tell them how it is, I think in time we can turn this around.
Well, I don't, but I'll see you. So my question is, if the woman thinks he's not following God and the man thinks he is, should she still obey? Like, let's say she doesn't like how he's talking. I think that's a common thing. Women don't like how the man talks.
Right.
They think he's being disrespectful or rude or whatever. Do you think, like, in those cases, she should still obey?
I think a lot of times I think for me, I do believe a marriage should be equal, whether that's biblical or not.
We're asking people today, do you think Christian women should obey their husbands? Just to get where people are coming from, I'd love to get an international perspective. Yes or no, and why or why not?
Oh, it's a hard question, isn't it? It's worded quite aggressively, isn't it?
I mean,
it's like Adam talked things out with Eve. How'd that go?
Going on the internet, so I ain't saying nothing that's gonna get me in the doghouse in any future relationships. So I'm treading carefully here.
Really? Why not? Like you wouldn't be if you believe it, right? You wouldn't be afraid to tell your wife it, right?
There's a difference between like believing it and not being afraid to say it, and like knowing that I should say it tactfully because I don't want any future problems.
I think men worry too much about how women are going to perceive things. Oh, so you don't think it's okay for either party to tell them what to do?
No, they can run their own lives.
Okay. But I guess because my question is...
Would you want someone to tell you what to do?
Yeah.
What he said, obey, is a very strong word.
I was already black-pilled on conservative women, so that was done for me. But just the level of cowardice, like, how can you say you fear God when you fear my sign? Like, you clearly have no fear of God because you're afraid of a volleyball player with a microphone and an obey sign. So it just seems like the churches today don't teach courage because, it takes a level of courage in this society to say what you think, regardless of the consequences. But if you fear God, you would. So you clearly, you clearly don't. So you fear women, you don't fear God.
Yeah, and I've seen this play out in Protestant churches too a lot, especially with men that are going through a troubled marriage or going through a divorce, and watching the men in these churches, one, circle up around the woman to defend her and blame the guy, just be an extension of the woman blaming the guy, but actually telling the guy, you sort of need to bend over and take this because that's what Jesus wants you to do. And I've seen that happen dozens of times in my life and talked to men that it's happened to. I think there are Christian church-going men, and I'll qualify it's not all of them, but the level of cowardice in men in the church is just stunning to me. They will not speak the truth. They will run off anybody who does. They'll chase a woman out of the churchyard with a sign that's actually referencing scripture because they don't want the women to be offended by it. It's blows my mind.
Yeah, it's worse than I thought. And the level of cope. When I would do these interviews, some of the answers were clearly not answers because like if a woman says, I obey him, but only when he follows God, that means that she doesn't obey him.
Are churches telling men to lead, or they're mostly telling men to serve women?
Oh, to serve women. And serve the church, let's be honest.
I have some Bible verses that will support your position, Pearl, if you want to hear them.
Sure.
Ephesians 5:22-24. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Then there's Colossians 3:18. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Titus 2:4-5. Older women are to train younger women to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. Older women training younger women. This is something that I think we really, really need. Just saying. Like right now, men have rites of passage, whether it's done officially or unofficially. They have experiences, the hero's journey, that kind of thing. Women don't have that at all today. Like they're treated like children, and it never changes. So maybe we need that as well. Peter 3:1-6. Wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that If any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husbands, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord.
And that is a direct refutation of the idea that I'll submit to him as long as he's godly, or as long as I think he's godly. That line is saying the exact opposite.